Alright, let's talk about getting the best results when wet tilling, specifically focusing on the optimal throttle and gear settings for that crucial second pass. The goal? To avoid the dreaded mud flogging, which is when the tiller gets bogged down, and you end up with a churned up mess instead of a nicely tilled garden. So, you've done your first pass, and the soil is nice and damp. Now it's time for the second go-around, and this is where precision becomes key. You want to refine the soil, break up any remaining clumps, and create that perfect seedbed. But, doing it wrong can turn your garden into a muddy swamp. First, the gear. Generally, for a second pass, you'll want to use a lower gear than you might have used for the initial tilling. This gives you more control and allows the tiller to work the soil more effectively without getting overwhelmed. Check your tiller's manual, but often, a lower gear is recommended. Possibly even the lowest available gear for particularly wet conditions. Now, the throttle. This is where the magic happens, and where avoiding mud flogging is most critical. You want enough power to keep the tines turning and working the soil, but not so much that the tiller digs in too deep and bogs down. A good starting point is to set the throttle at about half to 3/4 of the maximum. Listen to the engine. If it sounds like it's struggling, or if the tiller is pulling you forward too quickly, back off on the throttle a bit. The goal is a smooth, controlled pass. You should feel the tiller working the soil, but not fighting against it. If you're getting a lot of resistance, or if the tiller is sinking in too deeply, you're probably using too much throttle or the wrong gear. Conversely, if the tiller seems to be bouncing along the surface, you may need to increase the throttle slightly or slow down your pace. Think of it like this: you're aiming for a steady, even pace, like a leisurely stroll. You don't want to be sprinting or crawling, you want that Goldilocks zone, where everything is just right. The ideal throttle setting will also depend on the type of soil you're working with. Heavier clay soils, for example, may require a slightly lower throttle setting, and a slower pace than lighter, sandy soils. Pay close attention to the soil conditions. If it's very wet, you may need to adjust your settings accordingly. Sometimes, even with the best settings, the soil will simply be too wet to till. In such cases, it's best to wait a day or two for the soil to dry out a bit. Trying to till soil that's too wet will almost always result in mud, flogging, and a lot of frustration. So, to recap for the second pass of wet tilling, choose a lower gear, and start with the throttle at about half to 3/4. Adjust as needed, based on the sound of the engine, the resistance you feel, and the soil conditions. The key is to find that sweet spot, where the tiller can work the soil effectively without bogging down. With a little practice, you'll be able to dial in the perfect settings, and avoid the dreaded mud flogging, resulting in a beautifully prepared seedbed for your garden.